Welcome back to the Crypto Power Hour. Now the #1 crypto show on Rumble, of course, powered by Solana Global with your hosts, Evgeny Mitkov, Lance Miliacha, and of course, my brother from another mother, georgeballoutine. This is your ultimate deep dive into everything crypto, blockchain, and decentralized finance. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just stepping into the world of digital assets, we bring you expert insights, top interviews, exciting new projects, breaking news, and game-changing innovations shaping the future of digital assets. Because, on this show, in crypto, we trust. georgeballoutine, man. How's it going?
It's Friday. This is the last show of the day. Weekend's coming. Got a big day tomorrow, but I don't, I want to bring Evgeny in on this one. You said #1 show? Remember.
#1 show on Rumble in the crypto vertical. That's it, baby.
All I do is win, 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 no matter what.
That's it. It is all about that. Of course, we're excited about that. It's a big deal to us. You can always catch the show here on Wednesdays and Fridays at 3 p.m. It's end of the week, third show of the day for George and I, so you know how that is. Running and gunning. But we got an exciting show today. I don't want to waste a lot of time, but before I jump in, Evgeny Mitkov, my brother, how are you, man? It's been a couple of weeks since you've been on the show.
It's been an amazing couple of weeks too. Every day is basically a year these days in terms of developments.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a lot going on over at Solana Global. There's no doubt. Those guys have been busy, busy, busy. We appreciate the fact that this is their show and they sponsor it. It's a big deal for us, of course. This show is always about educating the country about crypto. We want to make sure you guys don't miss out on an opportunity for generational wealth. Trying to bring you, programming. If you know that we do the education pieces. Last episode on Wednesday, we did meme coin mayhem. Tried to give you a breakdown on meme coins and to make sure maybe you don't make those mistakes and get rug pulled or find out that you've gotten into an operation that has developers that aren't really involved in the project. They're just trying to make money and move on to the next slaughterhouse. So if you want to know about meme coins, I definitely would tell you to go back and review that episode. And if you're not subscribing already, hit that follow or subscribe button. If you could do the paid subscription for $5, we appreciate it. All goes back into the show. If you could do a Rumble Rant tip, if you like the show, let us know. Talk to us in the chat. Tell us what you'd like to see in the future. It's all part of it. I'm excited because today we're enjoyed. If you guys, anybody that's out there knows the Polygon ecosystem, we're joined by Max Rennillo. He goes by Nill. That's his nickname way back in the lacrosse days. And if you know Polygon, you know that ecosystem. I'm sorry, what, George?
He's not that old.
I think he's got to be in his 30s, isn't he? Am I wrong?
I don't know. He's still got some lacrosse in him, I guess.
I mean, he's definitely younger than I am. You can tell, and he's got better hair than I do for sure. The ecosystem's success and growth, they originated as a creator builder on Polygon. He did creating content and hosting hundreds of X spaces. You know how busy you can be over there on X. Those spaces are out of control. We've held plenty ourselves. He began working the space with the NFT marketplace, Magic Eden, as the Polygon ecosystem lead. He transitioned into full-time work with Polygon Labs in 2024. He's since fostered relationships and provided resources to the builder community. We've got a ton of topics today. We're going to talk about Polygon. We'll give you some background here in a minute. But let's not leave Nill backstage any longer than we have to. Let's get him in here.
You got it. Welcome to the Crypto Power Hour. Nill, a.k.a. Nill. I was just going with Nill. From Polygon Labs. How's it going, Nill?
Appreciate you all a ton for having me on here today. Excited for the conversation, excited to connect with more people, just talk about my favorite topic, which is being in Web3, enjoying all the times that we have here together and really growing in all of our knowledge. So thanks for giving Polygon a little bit of time and myself. I'm excited for the discussion.
Yeah, we appreciate you being here. It's interesting when you look at these projects that have really taken off and what's happened. And of course, you've got to be excited. Ethereum's on fire, as is Bitcoin right now. They're all going back up. What do you think, man?
Yeah, feeling very good about our positioning here. And obviously the Ethereum ecosystem is something that we've fostered for so long, right? We've given it attention. We've made sure that it scales effectively, that builders have resources. So to be able to continue that momentum into this year and to be one of the longest lasting teams to do it, it stands to what our long-term efforts are, right? It stands to how we're going to grow overall. So really excited for how things look at the market and to see rotation back into Ethereum from Bitcoin, like very cautiously optimistic because kind of where things haven't gone recently, but now we're seeing good momentum. So really excited about it.
And I think this administration has definitely been instrumental. Finally, we got rid of that little weasel, Gary Gensler, and we had an opportunity for this, and maybe the country to take real advantage of a good administration. SEC seems to be calming down. We're definitely going to see some legislation there. Hopefully, it will be mild and not excessive. For anybody in the audience that doesn't know Polygon, and I hopefully this is a good description, it's a decentralized Ethereum scaling platform that enables developers to build scalable, user-friendly dApps with low transaction fees and high security. And a lot of people call it a blockchain booster. Is that accurate, Nill? Was that an accurate description of what you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the things that we focus on is ensuring that people have a differentiating factor for what we're looking to accomplish. So a lot of the product that we put out, a lot of the technological upgrades to our stack or what Ethereum does as a whole, it is really our goal to make sure that many different people can build whatever they think is useful in the blockchain world, right? And there's many great examples of breakout apps that we have. If everyone obviously watched the election very closely.
Give me some real world for the audience, because one thing that's always difficult for people to wrap their head around, because we talk about, as an example, that you guys solve Ethereum's congestion, and you're also overcoming their high gas fees and low throughput. But people don't always understand what's the real world applications. Kind of break it down for them.
It's perfect. The metaphor I use is why New York is the center of the financial hub, but why everyone can't live in New York, right? It gets very congested. It's hard to live there. It's expensive, right? But people still want access to New York as a whole. So some people might live over in New Jersey, for instance, right? Some people might live outside in Connecticut, right? Like there needs to be accessibility points to these places, but they need to be more efficient overall. So it doesn't get much more crowded. It doesn't bog everything down. Enter layer twos, right? Your Polygons, your Arbitrums, your Optimisms. And then from a real world application perspective, it's things like payment processors. Payment processing and transactions happen so fast. There's so many of them. We need something to efficiently run all these transactions. That's where layer twos come in because of how much security Ethereum has, but how much transaction volume all the other L2s can kind of have overall. Like one of the breakout dApps we always talk about, and everyone watched the election, Polymarket. Polymarket was in the news a ton for a good reason. It was doing something very unique, which was prediction markets of global events. And it ran off and it had a very aggressive volume move, and it's still doing great success here today, all because how they're able to scale with Polygon solutions.
Yeah. And, George, you and I have talked constantly about the benefit to people that I don't think they even grasp it. And I want you and Evgeny to comment on this. Low transaction fees. There's so many middlemen in business, right? And at the end of the day, you end up paying through the nose. We've kind of done some blockchain, transparency when explaining the title markets, for example, in real estate, and how many fees are related to transferring titles. And of course, there isn't much security. Low fees for me is a win-win for anybody in the audience.
Yeah, it is. But he brought up something with Polymarket, and we always talk about with the blockchain and trying to restructure our electoral process in this country, how much better it would streamline it and curtail all that, like the fraud, because some places they take days to count, others they just can't count, things get switched. But imagine I hear Polygon come along, right? So them go over, we have the block, we have the technology, and boom, same day voting, everything gets counted. You know who's winning at the end of the night. Can we do that, Nill? Can we get that done?
There is opportunity for sure for different solutions to be built that way, for that transparency aspect, the speed, and that's why we see Polymarket, and I'll highlight them here in this instance, they were almost the people that called the election because they were able to give it almost 100% certification because
100%.
Yeah, they saw so much movement on the volume saying, okay, everyone believes that Trump is going to win. That's what the voting said. It's at 99%. Let's just push it over the edge and report on it, right? So it's you got to look at that as real world evidence for how this technology has really effects on how we operate, right? And that's taking polls from people and giving it that much more transparency and having their money behind it. That's where real people are putting their amplification. So no, I think that
that's the important part, putting the money behind it. Because people do polling. Gallup was doing polling, right? But who were they polling is the question.
And I want to say that is spot on. In all the years of my age at this point, I got to tell you, I've never been polled. In all those years, I've been a registered voter. They've never polled me once. I've asked all my friends and family members if they've ever been polled. What I like about Polymarket is that the transparency and the data points and the fact that they really have done the research, unlike, and Evgeny is such an excellent point, like Gallup and all the other polling, when they say, oh, Donald Trump's down the polls right now, he's not popular. I don't believe that even for a New York second. And it's not because of my political beliefs. It's because I can see the polarized nature of social media, even though you've got these paid operation ops that are trying to, undermine what's going on. When you look at it across all the platforms, and I know you do this, Nill, when you're looking at as much social media as we look at, and you're analyzing kind of the trends, you just start to see the big picture. The polls are never accurate, but Polymarket was over the target 100%.
Yeah. Kind of insane just to see again, this is the whole purpose for, you break it all down, and then you all like to boil things down for the audience in different ways, right? You break down the why that blockchain technology occurs. It's to make sure that data points get more effectively transmitted. Right. That's the very most simplest portion of this. Right. And if you apply that to things like elections, things like where people are putting their money, what they're investing in for transparency purposes, accessibility points, then you have the why, right? You have the why of why this technology makes sense. So it's just a very interesting way to see this evolve. And obviously Polymarket's one of those teams that we love to champion because they've had this breakout opportunity and they've continued their momentum. And hats off to the team for how hard they've worked. We like to make sure that everyone knows Polygon's great for so many reasons, but Polygon, the best part of it is it's so great because it's so many unique teams on it they're building, specifically like Polymarket.
You guys came out
I'll
with
highlight a couple of other ones I use. Aave, for example, is an amazing DeFi app, and it's much more efficient than the money market funds out there. It instantly, you can roll in and out in seconds, hours.
And can you explain that app to the audience, Evgeny? Explain that app.
It's a DeFi yield app. Any balances you've got, you can just roll it into Aave and collect interest. For example, you go into sleep, you put it in Aave for 9 hours, and you collect interest from the Asian operations. And somebody in Asia is using that capital for their business, for example.
I got you. And what kind of rates can you see on there? The rates, of course, we always hear about these rates, how awful they are in money markets. We've seen a lot of people staking and getting, really high returns for staking projects. Give me some examples of some of the returns you get on there, Evgeny, for the audience, so they can kind of realize these opportunities are there.
12%. 12% of
amazing.
Now, it's amazing percentages. Obviously, you do take principal risk with that transaction, but at the same time, the hours that you take this exposure and the low transaction fee enables you to do this very efficiently. I can take an 8-hour deposit.
Can I ask you this? What's the win-lose rate over there on that app? Any idea?
I don't think there's been a loss.
Wow.
Oh,
amazing. And that, that's a big return when you look at these little micro amounts. And of course, any of the money marks on any of the big companies on the big financial platforms are the same. You guys did something amazing though at Polygon that a lot of people haven't jumped on board with, meaning that other teams out there. You came up with a chain development kit, and I know that's modular software. It's a toolkit for developers. Tell us about that, because my understanding is it's the ease of use and the speed at which you can create their own layer 2 or layer 3 chains is pretty amazing.
Yeah, really effective. And overall, just got to give love to our engineering team, our product team for rolling out something unique to ensure that people have access to why they potentially would need a chain for their transactions, right? Say that you have a payment processor and you're doing hundreds of thousands of millions of transactions per day. You want to be able to control your ecosystem, right? How efficient it's running, where those transactions are going, the security of it. And that's what we provide for people with the Chain Developer Kit. It's called CDK for short. It has a rollout of a service essentially of how you develop your own chain. And we work in collaborations with rollout providers, typically Gateway, Conduit, a number of great builder groups that build these chains on behalf of our teams, right? So it's our tech stack, and we've recently integrated more tech stacks into our entire arsenal. So we should have a lot of resources for our people that are looking to develop on a much higher level. So basic builders have access for apps, but large scale teams have access to building their own chains and connecting it through cool stuff that we have on our side, like the ag layer, which I'm sure we'll go into more here too.
Yeah, let me ask you this: how big right now? I hear the numbers. I've seen some people quoting numbers. How big is the Polygon ecosystem right now, as far as the number of transactions? If there's 100 transactions in a day, how deeply are you guys entrenched, and how many of those transactions are you guys grabbing out of the market?
Yeah, transactions for volume on a day-to-day process is in like the 5 to 7 million, I believe. And again, like that's building on all the momentum that we've had over a long time period. And it's just like it continues to grow. It continues to find different use cases, specifically just because because the efficiency, like real world assets, right? RWAs, which is the idea that you can build real value from things that you already have investment vehicles for, but put them on the blockchain, right? That's somewhere that we've taken a massive hold in because there's so much more accessibility for people to invest in these things if they're in a digital world, right? So like that's a big area. Payments obviously is a massive thing for us. Those two narratives are like where the majority of our transaction volumes coming from is from those two areas, specifically RWAs and payments.
And
Gotcha.
that's basically the theme of this year. Is
Fingers crossed, right? Like that's if we
Yeah.
ride the narratives, we feel beneficial from it. So we're there.
Look,
You know-
I think one of the biggest developments of the last couple of weeks is this theme that it's very clear that there's a lot of dollars around the world that are not needed anymore. And obviously, if you compare this back to the 1987 to 1990 period when Japan had that problem, and back in those days, there was a one pump gas station in Tokyo that sold for $1 billion. Picture 100 square foot gas station selling for $1 billion. That's what happens when you don't know what to do with cash you're sitting on. And we're in a similar situation, but it's not just Japan. Now the whole world is, and the trillions of dollars that they're sitting on are like, what the hell am I going to do with this? I don't need it anymore. And obviously, the natural thing is come to America and buy whatever you can get your hands on. But if that happens, we're going to have a massive hyperinflation. So, what became very clear in the last couple of weeks, and the administration is kind of really pushing in that direction, is guys, you need to start buying Bitcoin and stable tokens. And basically, they're herding the world into those two channels so that we don't experience the hyperinflation that will otherwise happen if all those bank deposits come hunting for assets in the US. Because simply because of Polygon, now you can settle a transaction between US and China or whatever else in the world in 3 seconds. So you don't need dollars anymore. When transactions are that fast, you almost don't have counterparty risk. You don't have market risk. So that basically removes the need for the dollar, and all those dollars that are stacked up by the trillions in the rest of the world for payments and they're not needed. I'm gonna have to find a new calling, and I think that's why you're seeing this Bitcoin rally and Ethereum rally. So basically, people are buying up anything they can put their hands on. Tether issued $1 billion in the last 24 hours. They've
Yeah.
issued $6 billion in the last month. That's 5% of their float. This
Yeah.
is how big the demand is out there.
It's interesting because Tether, invested 775 million at a stock price of I think $7.50 or $7.30 into Rumble. That was an interesting investment. A lot of people didn't see that coming before it happened, which of course has given Rumble a tremendous amount of capital to grow. And
Yeah.
they've got big plans to put that capital to work. And there's even potential for Tether to invest more, assuming they meet certain certain goal posts. So
They've actually invested in a political organization that allows new independent candidates to go out and fundraise with blockchain tools. Now, that is
yeah, that's
powerful,
great.
Really?
right?
Yeah, and I think that's
Because-
great because independents are always suffering under the consequences of what I call the good old boy network, whether you're dealing with foundations, NGOs, super PACs, lobbyists. The
Yeah.
big money comes in and supports them, and even though they're not the brightest and best. We've seen this over and over again. Many of them, I believe, are installed, but the fact is, the war chest they put together, even when they're not the most popular candidate, they're able to influence and take control of media in such a way that the incumbents have no opportunity to really fight a fair battle.
I believe.
Or the smart, good representative has no chance of that.
I believe.
Yeah.
Forget about the money. If you actually secure our elections, you'll be a lot different outcomes. Even take away.
Well, I'll tell you a
if this one
perfect
doesn't have
example
money. So, okay.
I heard a candidate from upstate New York, kind of like Rockland County. She was on the ballot, and she has the family members around town, and she
Is he
could
the guy that
easily
owns? Evgeny, are you talking about the CEO of Sticker Mules?
No. This was a woman
Okay.
who ran, and
okay.
I know. Go ahead. Finish telling the story.
Yeah, so she was in the November elections. She could think of at least 120 people in her hometown that voted for her.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And when she looked at the New York roster, she didn't even have her vote in there. Nobody voted for her in town.
Yeah. Yeah, and even though her family members did, but of course that's the system. It's fully corrupted.
Yep.
There's really no transparency, and they need blockchain, and they need watermark ballots. They need 1-day counting. They need voter ID. But of course, our beloved Congress on both sides of the aisle, they want to keep it this good old boy system. And they want to stay with their career politicians and their insider trading.
So Nill, I want to talk about your ag layer. You guys launched that in 2024, right? It was your coordination layer for unifying liquidity and user experience across all your Polygon chains and beyond.
Yeah, exactly what it is, right? And that was kind of leading us back into it kind of leads into Lance's last question, obviously, about like the CDK and what the purpose of it is overall. So there's a lot of different applications for why we believe in the ag layer as a future. And we how we approach ag layer is that we don't we're not the builder of ag layer. We are one of the collaborating teams behind ag layer. Like a lot of teams are building it collectively with us, right? But we're obviously, we kind of kick things off. So what the ag layer is looking to accomplish is unifying liquidity, allowing for cross-chain communications and transactions without having the friction of bridging and swapping and having all these kind of fees in the middle, right? So essentially, it's an efficiency layer to make sure you can take any cryptocurrency, right? Take Solana and transact on any blockchain available, right? So we're plugging in not only like Ethereum-based blockchains, but Solana-based blockchains, Cosmos. We'll be everywhere, right? Connecting these chains together to make sure you can just operate in the blockchain scene, just like the internet here today. So that's the overall goal with it.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. The ecosystem you guys have created and who's doing business with you is really, incredible. When I look at it, kind of Avi, QuickSwap, Uniswap, V3, Curve, Balancer. You've got NFTs in gaming, OpenSea, Magic Eden, Sandbox, Zedrun, DraftKings, Starbucks, Odyssey. You've got social, Web3 communities like Lens Protocol, Galaxy. I think it's Galaxy. I mean, this list, these are kind of the who's who. And then you have enterprise and real world assets like Stripe Payments, Nike Swoosh, Franklin Templeton for tokenized funds. What about ETFs? I mean, that's the big news lately in the media. What are your guys' inroads? And yeah, you're smiling. So did I hit a sweet spot there or what?
This is a sweet spot is the thing. I let the legal team deal on ETF discussions. You know what I mean? So sweet spot, maybe the sore spot too at the same time. No, but I think that we're aggressively having different conversations to make sure people have accessibility to what we're building. I think the ETF thing has been a trend for many teams to jump into pretty aggressively, right? Like we saw a Pengu ETF get applied for, which is always fun, right? Like hats off to Luke and the team for working.
Maybe we'll have a SNEC ETF next, maybe a Doge ETF,
SPX 6900 ETF. Let's send it everywhere, right? It's fun, right? It's good, and so I approach it from those things will come as we prove ourselves, and we've already done that. So give those things time, and they'll roll themselves in the right direction. That's how I'll legally approach it, and my compliance team will be very happy about that.
Yeah, I think you're holding back, Nill. I feel like you're holding back. We might have to dig back in.
We don't want him to get in trouble, Lance.
No, we don't. We want him to keep his job. We don't need him to get fired right after doing the show. That would have a bad effect on our show and his life. All right. Well, yeah, of course. Listen, but let's talk about. I'd like to get back just for a minute. I want to talk about these real world use cases. On average, if we were talking about let's say the standard MasterCard transaction, and let's say they fully swapped over to using Polygon instead of your normal way. What's a comparison for the audience? Because we're seeing this now where they're trying to, everywhere you go. I don't know if you guys see this here in Denver, because real estate's gotten so expensive. These restaurants, everything has a transaction fee, a service fee. They're trying to include the tip without asking you what you want to give. I mean, you get your bill and you're like, holy crap, there's a lot of extra stuff on there. What do you think on average? What are some of the savings you can kind of give the audience so they understand the real value for them?
Yeah, an insane
I would
amount.
say 17%.
Yeah, at least. I mean, that's like an average. So like, I would say like you compare our transaction fees and you would look at what it is overall. For a typical transaction fee on Polygon, you're looking at like a 0.003 of a dollar, right?
Wow.
Like it's minimal, right? And a lot of teams are working for like abstraction purposes, right? To like alleviate that as even a fee that's needed to be provided by the person that's like transacting. So there's like a lot of like alleviation for accounting for gas. So in a theory, a team could build a platform, it could be gasless, right? Which is very interesting. So no fees at all, and just the transaction for the good and service is what's actually being exchanged. So, but what you come back to transactions and you talk about the like, well, let's talk about the velocity of money. Okay, that's like a very important thing of how fast does money change hands out here, right? A typical asset, right? A typical dollar in the real world and on every other blockchain, on like besides Polygon, fortunately, about exchange hands about once per month, right? That's stable dollar velocity. We say how many times it changes per once? About once per month. On Polygon currently, USDC velocity is 4.5 times per month. Right. So what does that mean? Right. 4.5 times more often, right? We're going to see a dollar move on Polygon than any other platform. So what does that mean for us? It means that transactions are happening that much more often in the payments processing and RWA sector, that we're getting more fees based off of those transactions, and we're going to grow it that much more effectively because the lion's share is already here on Polygon, right? So it kind of points you to the direction that we're heading in with all these stablecoin incorporations jumping in so aggressively, and what that means for our users, our builders, our little mom and pop shops in Denver, right? They can apply this, kind of eliminate all these fees and just get back to focusing on service, focusing on reward, focusing on the customer, right? Which is the ultimate goal here, which is a very interesting opportunity. And I'm working with teams at the city level right now to make some of these things happen in real life and see how it can affect them on the community level. So it's very cool.
Yeah, it seems like incubating those. Go ahead, Evgeny.
I'll take it even more extreme, guys.
Yeah, please.
If you look at a typical small business, 10% of their capital is locked up in transit, whether it's payment processors, whether it's bank wire transfers, ACH transfers, whatever you want to call it. Literally, 1 to 2 weeks out of the year, their capital is in transit. So if you are $1 million business, you have to have $100,000 more just to be able to operate.
Yeah.
And if all of the sudden your capital doesn't need to be locked up for 2 weeks in the banking system, and if you can gain 10% more capital in this cash-strapped economy, we will absolutely tear the economy up.
Yeah, it would explode.
That's one aspect.
One of the businesses I've always hated was factoring. I hate factoring for businesses because it's so, it's usury. You see a lot of the medical institutions, a lot of doctors and providers have to do it. All right, listen, we're going to take a short break. Stay tuned. We'll have more when we get back. Polygon, I'm going to ask some questions about Sandeep. He's the public face of Polygon. I want to hear some inside scoop. Hopefully, Nill will throw us a bone here. At the end of the day, the crypto power. I'll be right back with George Balloutine, myself, Lance Miliacho, Evgeny Mitkov, and Nill from Polygon. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
As an American who keeps up with the real news, you know by now the severity of the economic issues that are plaguing our great nation. My name is Jonathan Rose, and I'm the CEO of Genesis Gold Group, the only major faith-driven company in the industry. 2024 is a year full of uncertainties, with trillions of dollars in national debt, inflation impacting your savings, and a pivotal election year. Your peace of mind is more valuable than ever. Now is the time to use physical gold and silver to preserve your hard-earned retirement savings with a gold IRA. Call Genesis Gold Group today. Our team has decades of experience helping folks just like you take their first step on the path to true financial freedom with a gold and silver IRA.
Call Genesis Gold Group today at 1-800-200-GOLD for a no-commitment, informative consultation with one of our experts to find out if we can be a fit for you. Call now at 1-800-200-4653 or visit genesisgoldgroup.com.
In a world of uncertainty, be prepared with Silver Prepper Bars, your ultimate hedge against political instability and economic turmoil. Introducing the Silver Prepper Bar, crafted from 0.999 pure silver and proudly made in the USA. This tangible, divisible asset can come in handy even in the toughest of times. Portable, perforated, and easily tradable, the Silver Prepper Bar is your lifeline in times of crisis. When facing inflation, currency devaluation, and financial meltdown, Silver Prepper Bars provide peace of mind. Don't wait for disaster to strike. Secure your future today with the exclusive Silver Prepper Bar, the only silver bar on the market divisible into 3 different size pieces for maximum utility, all while fitting in your wallet. The smart choice for savvy investors and preppers alike. With Silver Prepper Bars, you're ready for whatever tomorrow brings. Hi folks, I'm here today to introduce you to the Prepper Bar from PrepperBar.com, the most unique precious metals product we have seen in a long time. These 62-gram bars are perforated and easily broken down into your choice of 3 different sizes to fit a multitude of needs. Whether it be from asset protection from inflation, economic turmoil, or its unique utility for barter and trade, the Prepper Bar makes a perfect gift for all the precious metal lovers out there. Exclusively made here in the USA and selling out fast. Available in both gold and silver, these slim Prepper Bars fit neatly in your wallet, and their utility enables use in any situation. As gold and silver prices continue to surge and top economists predict upcoming shortages, now is the time to secure your precious metals in the form of Prepper Bars. Go to PrepperBar.com now and place your order before supply runs out and prices go up. All payment methods accepted. Order your Silver Prepper Bars now at PrepperBar.com. Silver Prepper Bars, ready for whatever tomorrow brings. Order now.
All right, welcome back to the Crypto Power Hour, powered by Solum Global, with your host, Lance Migliaccio, Evgeny Mitkov, George Balloutine, and our guest from Polygon Labs, Nill. Nill, you know, Lance didn't have, he couldn't pull it out of you, so I'm going to try here. This is what I do. So we're going to talk a little bit. We're going to go to vision and future, right, in Polygon. What, 2.0? You have the upcoming transformation into a unified ecosystem of a ZK-powered change using the ag layer. Now, your goal, what? Become the value layer of the internet. Give our audience, throw them a bone. You got to give them something. Don't worry about the lawyers. I'll take care of the lawyers.
Yeah, beat the lawyers off.
Listen, I live 10 minutes from New York City, bro. I just go right to the office of Polygon.
Yeah, call real quick. They like drop-ins all the time.
What?
They enjoy drop-ins. That's what it is. They
Do
like
they?
to hang out.
I'll
Yeah,
come.
they
Listen,
do.
I live 10 minutes away from the city. Seriously.
Yeah, come hang out. I'm serious. I'll be in New York in about 2 months, so we'll do some stuff. I'm in Toronto next week for conferences. We'll be getting after. But I can throw a bone here for sure, and I got some juicy stuff we can talk about.
Yes,
So
nice.
with the ag layer, right? It's a very unique value proposition. What we're trying to accomplish, right? If you unified all of Web3 under one blanket of transacting, right? Imagine what that would do to how easy we can operate, but almost how much more volume would flow from chain to chain. It's a very interesting value proposition, right? And obviously we have our token over at Polygon. It's Pol, right? We transitioned from Matic previously over to Pol. That was about 7 months ago that we did that. So what Pol is looking to accomplish is to value accrue over time, right? What does that mean for everybody else that's out here? It gains fees by the things that happen on Polygon as well as on the ag layer as a whole. So when you're a person out there and you're deciding what to do, staking opportunities, again, Evgeny was talking about it. We have Aave, we have all these staking opportunities out there for DeFi benefits, right? So staking Pol is one of those things where you are going to get that many more benefits out of how Pol works between the ag layer and on Polygon itself. Now, the extra layer of value here is, what do we want to do to make sure we have that many more opportunities for our people? We want to reward them when they're staking their pool. We want to provide them more things like airdrops and early access to things, and really just more incentives for being loyal to what Polygon is looking to accomplish. And by staking your pool, you're saying, hey, I believe in you all, I'm locking it up, and we're going to give you all direct benefits for that. So if you go over to our Twitter accounts, there's many hints over what those rewards might be over the next few months. I highly encourage our humans to stake their pool out there, so you're in those reward pools. That's what I'll say.
So what's the follow? Let's get people following you guys over on X, because of course those kind of little benefits, those leaks early get people excited, and of course the staking. Everybody wants to know what's the return, what are the extra benefits? Are we getting more than NFTs? What are we really going to get?
Yeah, there's a lot of different benefits, obviously. And if you go over to OX Polygon, just straight OX 0x Polygon on Twitter, you'll see all the highlighted posts, right? And there's a lot of them specifically around the staking benefits. There's a lot of them around like what platforms you should be tapping into and maybe engaging with to get more of those benefits, right? And so the value add is, let us lead you to the breadcrumbs that is the opportunity of Web3, which is airdrops and reward systems and different things you can engage with earlier than money people do, unless you're really paying attention, right? And then those will lead to more community benefits overall. So we have a few things. I need a week. I can come back on. We can yap about it later. I need a week before we release something very, very unique for our people, and that'll be.
We're going to hold you to that, man. We'll drag you in there. We're expecting you to use the Crypto Power Hour for that early release leak. Maybe give it to our audience before everybody else, because we like to throw those bones out there to get people involved. Hopefully, generational wealth is part of it. But let's face it, part of the game is knowing about this stuff in advance. The insiders, that insider leak.
That's definitely a part of it.
His name ends in a vowel. He knows what time it is.
Exactly. Kazadish, come on, Nill. You got to throw a little bone here, okay?
Yeah, my family from Cabo Basso is rolling over right now.
You got to work with us, Nill. You know what I'm saying?
You pulled my leg, I scratched your back. That's what it is. But no, we'll definitely, as I said, my alpha is, my insider information, if you will, is just stake, right? Stake for benefits, right? And there's going to be a lot of them. So like in a week and a half, there'll be things that I come back and talk about, and people will be like, okay, well, thank God I staked, right? Because that's what it's going to come back down to. A new way for you to gain value in a new thing that we're doing. So it's very unique.
And let me give you this. Walk them through where they go to stake and kind of just break that down. I know what staking is. George knows what staking is. We do it sometimes. Break it down for the audience, the steps to stake.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's many different types of like staking, right? There's like, and people define these things differently. So I'll just give like two very simple routes. And Evgeny already alluded to one. There's staking via DeFi apps, right? And so you're depositing your funds into a profile, into a platform similar to your bank, and you're gaining those passive yields in a percentage basis, right? And so pull on those platforms will have benefits, and things like Aave, Morpho. There's great platforms out there that are very easy to use. The next level of this is like actually staking on chain, which is actually denoting your tokens, giving your tokens over to what we have on Polygon known as validators. And validators are where the transactions essentially bounce off of, and they validate everything that's happening on chain, right? There's an article that is actually pinned to my profile on Twitter. I'm Big Nill Collect over on Twitter, and it gives a step-by-step guide to what staking is on chain, so that you can gain those direct benefits from depositing your tokens directly to the network rather than a DeFi app. They're a little different. One's a little bit more difficult than others, but they both have very unique benefits.
Got it. Nice tip there for everybody. You guys can always replay this. Take the short form, the long form, post it on your own social media. You got some insider there from Nill. Let's talk about leadership over at Polygon. Evgeny, Sandeep's an interesting character. He always has been. Very smart, really understands scaling and adoption, and he's got a big vision. Any specific question you'd like answered about Sandeep without getting Nill in trouble, Evgeny?
Well, I want to point out, you guys talked a lot about the all these rewards, and I know people probably scratch their heads and like, where does all this money come from? Are these people running Ponzi schemes, or are they, how does it, where does airdrop stuff come from? Where do these rewards come from? And I want to sort of break that myth for people first, because when you look at the banking system, it generates literally $3 to $4 trillion in revenue for the banks. of which 1.7 trillion in pure profit. That's basically 5% of the global GDP goes to bank profits. Just have that sink in for a second. And obviously, the way blockchain operates, it's sharing those rewards with its users. And that's that's where these rewards and airdrops and all of that comes from. So by being part of this ecosystem, effectively you're part of the economic engine of that's running it. And it's just a lot more distributed and a lot more sharing and caring, if you wish. So just wanted to break that myth first, because I know there was a lot of airdrop and a lot of reward stock, and
Yeah.
I'm sure people wonder, like, where's this coming from? But
Well, and also cutting out the middleman. People have to realize that through all
yeah,
transactions, there's so many hands in the pie. You
yeah,
know, it's like Oliver Twist. Everybody's like, "Can I have some masa?" I mean, it's just
yeah,
they take as much as they can every time you go in. We've used land title deeds, you know, transactions and mortgages, how many people get paid along the route that are unnecessarily getting paid to authenticate titles. The blockchain would get rid of all that. So for you guys in the audience, you have to realize that what these companies like Polygon are doing is they're redistributing some of that wealth because there's plenty. They don't need to get greedy. Polygon can take their transactional fees, some very small fees, cut out all the other middlemen, and then that money is an opportunity for you guys to make money in staking, to get money through airdrops, and the opportunity to grow with a company that's got a vision. But go ahead, Evgeny. I didn't mean to step on you there, brother.
yeah. So I want to make a quick comparison here and ask Neil about this. Look at if you look at something like Ripple, which has been around since 2014, never did anything meaningful in their 11-year run, and it only, a little pump with a documentary last year kind of put them back on the mum, and a little bit of political contributions, and now they're buying up companies, right? Compare that to what Polygon has done with a lot less resources.
It's funny. So I love this conversation, and this is so I'm on TikTok Live. I think I said it before. I did a TikTok Live before this. TikTok it's a very unique ecosystem. It's very educational based. It's very like specific on certain things. But what they do is they like get behind different motives, like narratives, and XRP is the number one thing that everyone talks about, right? And for somebody in the Twitter sphere who doesn't like, who wasn't on TikTok for a long time, I just didn't get exposure to it. But I came over, I was like, oh my god, like what's going on here? It's so weird, right? And so when I make these comparisons, because I do like believe in a multi-chain future and the ag layer goals and everything like that, I say like, there is different ways you build, but the way that we've always focused is on primary use case and how we provide our people like value with our products, right? And I think that's what you're asking for. The answer is like compare our benefits, compare our like difference to the ecosystem, how we've built. It's very focused on making sure that the people understand that there's more that you can do here than just transact and send money somewhere, right? It's evolving, it's growing, and we've made big efforts into that. And Ripple will have their wins, like XRP will have its day, all those kind of things. But I believe that we have very much uniquer opportunities for our people because how have our builders built on our chain? It's very dynamic, right? So we're in that dynamic group.
And it's a blockchain, unlike a copied database.
And let me ask you a question. So the Polygon ecosystem token, I know you guys started out, what, about a year ago, really in some really small numbers. Now I think you're sitting around 24 or 25 cents. Is that accurate? I didn't check today.
Yeah, no, you're good. So we previously, the Matic token has been in existence for a while, right? And previously there was a transition between Matic and Pol. It happened last year in September. So it was a transition for a lot of reasons, for branding purposes, for we call it now a hyper-productive token because it can power both the ag layer ecosystem and Polygon itself as the kind of how things move around. So it was a transition, right, for how things go. And while I personally just don't talk about token price, it's not something that I feel like is beneficial to the discussion. I more talk about the longevity that it's had. And because the Matic network work was so productive, and because Matic did have its it's big support, right? We believe that Pol has a unique positioning in all this as well here. So I kind of like alleviate it back to saying like we've been here, done this before, and we will win again because now we just have all this new enlightened energy with how this new bull market's shaping up. So we're in a really unique position.
Yeah, I think it's a big deal. You know, everybody always talks about token price. The only reason I bring it up because that seems to be for right now. I don't think for the future, people's big concerns. One of the difficult things is they try to wrap their heads around some of this crazy stuff that's posted all over social media. They see these young guys living in studio apartments, sleeping on a mattress, driving a $400,000 car and showing a wallet, you know, showing their cold storage wallet or showing a wallet online with, you know, partially, you know, redacted with, you know, 10, 11, 12, $20 million in it. And people are wondering, how the hell did they do that? How did that happen? And, you know, it becomes kind of unreliable, you know, fomented kind of social media influence where people are like, well, is Polygon, is it a good token to buy? Is it going to go through the roof? Is it an opportunity to get ahead? Is this the next Bitcoin? You know, you hear these scenarios. Of course, Bitcoin hit 102,000. Everybody's just, you know, it's all online. Michael Saylor is probably going to do 500 interviews between now and tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the thing, right? You know, you never know. And you're right, XRP is the talk, but I think a lot of it's got to do with people feel like XRP, when it comes to what the SEC did to them and the damage they did to the entire industry and the influence. And of course, then there's those 3,300 contracts that are named in the lawsuit where they can't talk about them because they're still under NDA. Final settlement's not in. And we're hearing from the administration, from some pretty reliable sources, that they may very well accept XRP to pay the SEC fine from Ripple. And that would be added to the strategic reserve. Now, you know, whether or not that's true, nobody's said for sure, but we've heard it now 3 times from 3 different locations. So it's interesting information that in fact, that's even being discussed as a possibility. So you always wonder, I want to talk about, man, you have such a strange background in a way, because not everybody starts as a creator. And you started really as a creator before you went full wind.
Yeah, I was like not a formal, I don't know. So my professional background, right? Like went to business school, went to Miami of Ohio here in Ohio, and like did the whole traditional route, went into like business development, went into marketing, sales, and I was in marketing analytics software, right? So different press releases that would go out, different channels for that, how people have like share a voice. That was like my professional background. But then, like, obviously we had lockdowns and COVID and all these kind of things. And I went internal. I was just like, what can I do on my spare time? And I just like studied the hell out of blockchain. Like I just dove in deep. And I just fell in love with this weird technology that everyone was kind of just talking about on the internet. And then I was also involved in the GameStop AMC run up. And all these streamers were just like, yo, if you guys like this, the power of the people vibe is over on blockchain as well too. And that naturally carried me over. My first NFT I ever purchased was on Polygon. It was a Tiger Woods trading card, you know, right? Like I bought it with a credit card for $40 on a Tuesday and sold it for $400 on a Wednesday. I was like, whoa, like something's weird here. I got to figure this out, right? And then just went to Twitter and just kept yapping. Yeah, just kept talking, kept connecting with good people. And eventually I come from like a sports background. I've always been in leadership roles, and I just like ended up being the loudest guy banging the drum. Right. And so naturally that allowed me to host massive spaces, all about like different ways the Polygon ecosystem was evolving. So I come from the community. So this has been like a 5-year passion project for me. And now I work full time in the ecosystem. It's something I'm super proud of, right? Because not a lot of people can accelerate up from just like base level knowledge of not knowing to being involved in like waving the flag and then doing it professionally. It's the marriage of my perfect like opportunity in the world here. So,
you know, it's interesting.
The American dream still exists. You can start
Exactly.
Don't let them tell you different.
And NFTs are such a weird thing. You know, I own a bunch of art, but I never bought it into the NFT dream, especially in the art world, because I just couldn't understand the possession of, and I know some of them sold for crazy money, you know, $50-60 million.
It's the perfect money laundering tool.
and I want to be honest with you, I felt like that because let me say this first off: the art industry is already a money laundering operation, right? We've seen
is the
artists
perfect
come out of
money
nowhere,
laundering institution.
mediocre art that you think you could have produced with a crayon, selling for millions and millions of dollars.
Duct tape bananas, you know.
Yeah, a taped banana, exactly, that you eat. You buy it and then you eat it, and of course, oh my God, it's huge, right? Or Banksy, you know, street art that's turned into a whole different level of value. But for the NFT, it was hard for me because part of art is to have and to hold, right? You enjoy it; it's on the wall. You like the way it looks. You like the appearance. You enjoy, you know, the fact that you own that piece of art. I just couldn't get my head around the NFT thing.
Yeah, that's fair. And the thing is, like, the majority of my education comes from NFTs, which is hilarious. Like, and I just found really unique use cases for it, right? Like, I'm somebody, if I'm going to jump into something like, again, like I'm a very risk averse person. The fact that I was operating in NFT world was like the opposite of that. And so I didn't really buy into the speculation. I just bought into this interesting tech that like unlocked certain things, right? Educational courses, like golf course memberships, party access, like airdrops. Oh man, like the airdrops that I got from just hanging on to these little silly pictures of floating characters, immense, right? Like it was just interesting to learn the technology from that direction. And it's very community focused. That was my background, right? Like I was very like, oh, let's all build cool stuff. So it all kind of fell
probably
in.
the remaining very powerful use case of NFTs is, as people start doing various real world assets, they're going to be rewarding their customers with NFTs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
And
I
again,
mean, I get more of it now.
You need low transaction fees for that stuff to work. You're
Yeah.
not going to be able to do it with bank fees or credit card fees.
It was just hard to wrap my head around these crazy numbers when the NFTs took off there for a while, and I'm watching those monkeys and I'm like, I just can't see that thing.
Lance,
I can't put it on my wall.
If you buy an NFT, just print it out and hang it up on your wall.
Yeah, no, I know you can do that. It's just
like,
I guess for me, it's a different world because I came into art in a different way. I own some stuff I've had for years and years and years. Got lucky.
That's like saying you won't buy crypto because you like to have the paper dollar. Hold on, because you like to have the paper dollar in your hand. Just look at it. Look at it when people buy gold. When they buy gold and they don't have the gold in their hands, it's stored in a safe or account wherever.
No, I get it. I know you're right. It just at the end of the day, it's weird how you have these kind of predispositions that I want to be able to hang it on the wall. I want the original, whatever it is, and that's in my head. I can't help it. But I want to switch gears here a little bit. I want to talk about Polygon, and I want to talk about Solum Global. Our audience knows Solum Global. They know about the AI product that I think could revolutionize the healthcare industry. We've talked about it on the show. We've had the founders, of course, Evgeny's deeply entrenched into Solum Global. Let's talk about what would it look like if Solum Global and Polygon were working together. Give me some thoughts on how that all kind of comes together, kind of wrap my head around and then I want you to break it down from where it comes together and then kind of talk about what the benefit is for the everyday user in the healthcare industry if they actually were tied into that infrastructure.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, like, hats off to the team that's working super hard. Like, had some conversations with Solum as well, and just like super knowledgeable, like OGs in the space, like a lot of proof of concept, right? And so from a holistic perspective, like what you're trying to achieve is efficiency with almost everything that we're doing out here. It's like, let's remove friction, which is currently in existence in our Web 2 world. And let's make sure that these things just run in a more...
Oh, no, in medical world, there's no Web 2. We're talking faxes and paper.
Yes, exactly. Let's remove like the stone and chisel. You know what I mean? Like that's
correct. Exactly. We're talking stone, chisel, maybe faxes.
Do you know why the reason for faxes is? Because it can't be manipulated. Like you still, even if you send them the RS, you can't email it. They want you to fax it for the reason that it can't be doctored or altered. But then this is what you have blockchain for. But go ahead.
But I thought that's what they invented whiteout for, was to alter. No, okay, I'll take that back.
But exactly.
Wait a minute, that's not right. I don't have a predisposed heart condition. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You're exactly right. You advance that 2 steps forward, right, to a technology that is much more, not adaptable, not it's not going to change something on you. It's going to be immutable in this way. And you apply that to why it should be efficient for more people to have resources in the healthcare industry, right? So I think that everyone in this world, everyone in the American side for sure, is like had friction points with getting coverage. Right, like that is something that it's like, oh my God, how can I make sure that I go into a procedure and I don't get wrecked by the bill on the back end? That is something that people plan their child's births around when their when their deductible is covered, so the delivery is more cheap, right? Like everyone plans their lives around these things almost, right? If we had a way to make sure that we had a system that made that much more transparent and efficient, that's how we see the system really thriving and have success. And then providing that to more places, more hospital systems, more networks that could use the technology so that you can actually share in the, again, like there's different ways to do these things, but you can actually share in the efficiency overall. That's how I see things moving. And then that's how I see us like taking back ownership for how the healthcare system works. Because right now we know know, it's monopolized. The private entities run everything. They hike up prices. There's no transparency in it. So it's the transparency in the charges, but also the ease of efficiency of use of when you imply what the blockchain could use. Like, oh, I have all these conditions on all this paperwork that I fill out the exact same every single time. What if it was a one-click solution to make it that much simpler? That's what the approach is from us. And that's why we see the future of how kind of the healthcare sector interacts with blockchain.
And when you add 15% fraud in the healthcare system, right? It's kind of, isn't it the same, just like with credit cards? It's 17 in credit cards and it's 15% in a fraud in it seems like that's the
I think
level that
Medicare
it
and
hovers
Medicaid
at.
are actually higher than that. The numbers I'm hearing out of DC, the amount of fraud they're finding within that system. And of course, what does that leak down to the average user? It means bad healthcare for you because, of course, the resources are being used somewhere else. And, you know, there's a lot of reasons. Big Pharma has been in control of the healthcare industry for so long. They don't want to treat the disease. They want to treat the symptoms because that's where the money's at. But when you, and I want your actual, you know, honest critique. When you look at Solum Global and what they've got planned with their stable coin and what they want to do in the healthcare industry, you know, this is one thing I always go back on projects. I always say, well, does the blockchain need the project or does the project need the blockchain? You know, that's one of my big concerns. It's not that I'm an anti-Bitcoin guy, but when I look at Bitcoin for the long-term future, I'm always a little uneasy because, again, I think that the Bitcoin needs the blockchain. I don't know necessarily that the blockchain needs Bitcoin when I look at their programming that runs behind the scenes. And maybe they'll fix it. Maybe there'll be a way to do that. But let's talk about give me your honest opinion of Solum and how that fits into the the decentralized world.
Yeah, and I think it's the exact same take here. Is like it needs to be almost on both your sides, Lance. There needs to be give and take, right? Like we need like the ecosystem to like have both. It's like a symbiotic relationship, right? Like you need if the technology is too reliant on the operating system, it's going to fail. But if the operating system too reliant on the other side, it's going to also fail. So I think that Solum is uniquely positioned in that way because they have proven team members that have been here before. They've been here and seen the bumps in the road of how blockchain expands and why there's been so many issues. But also it's a very practical way to approach this and make it very easy for our end user. I think that's the key here is like we have focused so much more on the tech itself than the how it's going to be used actually by the person, right? And when you give them a use case that every single day they go out and say, damn, this is really hard. And you have people that have prescription fees and they have all these different medical things they're dealing with on a daily basis, right? As you get older and bringing more transparency and use case behind it. And obviously Solum is solving that. So it really, it fits what I call like the Web3 ideals, which is provide resources to people, give them transparency, open up more doors than you close, and then overall the ecosystem works better. And that's what they're looking to accomplish. So obviously very admirable there.
Imagine that Solum system into Medicare, Medicaid system, streamlining that, how huge that would be.
There's no doubt. And it's needed. Fraud's a big deal because, of course, at the end of the day, it's really the consumer that pays for that, the excessive costs. And really think about how many networks have been hacked. By adding this layer of security in the networks, you don't have to worry about your data getting stolen. And of course, you've got some pretty sophisticated groups out there, like the Lazarus Group and others that have been very successful into breaking into medical care. And of course, medical ransoms. They take a lot of these providers and then they take the data and they ransom them, saying you won't have access to your data because, the average doctor isn't that sophisticated. But by adding these layers, by, putting the blockchain in place, doing what Polygon does, all that goes out the window. That medical ransomware that's been going on and on and on over the last couple of years successfully. In fact, I know a doctor that was hit. They had to pay $75,000 to get all their data back. And
the average hospital pays $6 to $10 million.
Crazy, isn't it? Crazy numbers.
Right,
all right, listen, I know George, how are we doing for time? Are we still got a little bit of time? Or we
got a few minutes. You got you got something good for Nill?
Well, I'm going to throw something Nill.
If you want to.
Huh?
Yeah, let's talk about the leadership changes over there, and let's just do that. And then I want one last thing from you, Nill. Let's do that first, and then I want you to, if you know of any hot projects out there, let's throw a little chum into the water for the people that are here that are hoping they're going to get that tip on maybe an up and coming project that's just starting that may be an opportunity for people to see some real upside.
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of different things on the first topic. Obviously, our leadership has just it's evolved, right? So it's kind of like a tale of like how our ecosystem has evolved along with it. Right now, our founder and our founder team, it was a group of people, obviously, but one that's been consistent with us for so long is Sandeep, right? And Sandeep has just meant a lot to the ecosystem as like a kind of like this pillar of what layer twos are meant to establish. Like he's best friends with Vitalik. They've had dinner together at each other's family homes, right? Like Sandeep's mom's in the background of a photo cooking dinner for Vitalik and Sandeep. It was like, okay, that's wild. So that's how close they are, right? And so we've aligned ourselves with Ethereum to make sure they have success. And that's been a consistent theme, and everything that we do is ensuring that we continue to provide those resources for the builders, right? So 2 years ago, we did have like a turnover. We had a CEO that left. He's Ryan White. He's actually currently at Optimism, another fantastic layer two that we love to give love here at as well too. And we had a switch over to Mark Boyran, who's our current CEO. And Mark has approached it as like as any new CEO would, of needing to have an effective like reset point and a realigning of where we're going, right? Because 2-3 years ago, we were doing a lot of like enterprise work and like closing massive BD deals. And like, that was great for visibility, but like, we also need to focus on making sure that we have success in those launches. Right. And so the focus really has been on like building where we are. We've continued to grow our ecosystem through more hiring, a rotation of like where our priorities are, away from kind of just the flash in the pan thing back to the value adds, which is RWAs and payments. And now it's a very interesting new, I call it the new hiring class. It started about 1.5 years ago, of many new people that got hired at Polygon, of all this new energy that really has like the focus of where we move forward, but also a lot of OGs that have stuck around and have been here before and have won. So it's like almost like the new energy is coming in and reigniting all these people who have already like had success, and now we're leading us into like where we are going. And it's just a very interesting unification of like how people see how we see Polygon winning. And that's just to prove the concept of how Mark and Sandeep lead overall. They've always presented from like every single person that walks into Polygon interview wise has multiple conversations with both. Right, just because that's how ingrained they are into making sure our culture fits, and that's how we've really fostered over the last 1.5 years. So it'll be a fantastic next few weeks. We're excited for obviously 2025. We're going to do some very massive launches here with the ag layer, with the few products that I'll come back and we'll yap about eventually. But again, staking pool, important portion there.
No, I get it. I get it. It's great to see leadership like that that's hands-on. I always say you have to go to the toolbox for the right tool. You can't use a screwdriver where you need a hammer. And knowing who you're hiring. It's right, because at the end of the day, that's what happens sometimes when leadership gets too distracted. And of course, everybody wants good press, but press doesn't pay the bills. Yeah. You put out a press release and you come out with some amazing, alleged, it's got the right catchphrases and the right narrative. And that's what the press release is supposed to be about: driving stock, driving valuation, hopefully bringing in private equity markets and otherwise. But that doesn't really come to the bottom line sometimes. So those press releases with leadership, but I love to hear that they're so hands-on in it. Yeah, and we definitely do want you back on. We're definitely going to expand this conversation. I think it's great. Happy at some point to participate in your spaces or otherwise. We're here. We'll make sure we follow you from the Crypto Power Hour and Solum Global. If you give those handles to George, we'll get a little follow routine going back and forth with everybody. And Evgeny, same thing. But let me ask you this: throw a bone. What projects do you see that maybe are outside of the Polygon network, or maybe there's somebody you're just starting to look at? What project do you see? You're like, wow, this is a really cool project. And if I was going to maybe throw a couple of dollars at something early on, I know you don't like to talk about tokens, but maybe there's this project you're like, hey, this might be something worth looking at because they've got an AI, altcoin coming out, or they've got a this or that.
Yeah, for sure. And so like I stay in like the top 100 usually, right? As far as like when I'm looking at tokens, and I just looking for narrative movements, and that's something that like that's how I've actually tried to evolve into that, because that's what people on TikTok are just asking me for. They're like, yo, like what's the move? Like what's the vibe? And I'm like, all right, this is the narratives that I'm presenting you. Like I'm not going to tell you to toss dollars in this, but like this is what I'm seeing. And so like you've seen different ecosystems have their runs already, right? You've seen Sui move really aggressively, and that's seeming very interesting to still a lot of people. But I really think that we're going to have, and I say this as a kind of a joke, but also kind of like a compliment, a rotation back into Dino chains. Old chains that have been around for a while, that have proven themselves and have specific use case. Yes, am I patting ourselves in the back a little bit at Polygon? Absolutely. But I really believe that people are kind of tired with the flash in the pan, and big money is very tired with taking the flash in the pan right now, to be honest. Yeah. That's the comments that we heard coming out of Token 2049 in Dubai, right? It was like, yeah, all these new launches are cool. It's great. Can somebody freaking like ship something, and that's what you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Can anybody ship any product?
You mean you mean you weren't excited about Hawk Tuo when it came out?
Listen, like, yeah, for a half second when the arguments happened in the spaces, maybe that was. I was laying in Miami. I was laying in Miami in my bed at our Basel. I'm just listening to this Yap session. I'm like, God damn it, this is what we've come accustomed to. But it's part of it. But what I'll say is teams that are building effectively, teams like Stellar, teams like Quant, teams like Hedera, very interesting to me at this point because they
Hedera hash graph for the audience. That's we're in that one.
Yeah,
and the other ones you named also.
Yeah, they haven't seen their day yet, right? Which is like kind of what we're saying. And everyone's asking on socials, like, oh, when altcoin season, when is everything going to move aggressively, yada, all this kind of stuff. I believe that it's going to be a change of capital into narrative season, that we see some of these baseline builders, I'm going to call them dino chains, I think that's funny, move in unison together because they have a lot of bigger movements left to go, right? They haven't ran yet. They have institutional capital coming in, a lot of interest into actually their products. And so once those things deliver, that's my focus in the narratives for the next few months.
I'm going to steal that Dino Chains acronym. I like that. Go ahead.
Do it.
There's a lot of in a lot of these chains, even though they're Dino chains, they really have not delivered anything that works with the real world. And I think that's where Polygon obviously makes it a big difference. Is actually really making it work in the real world. Because we can be all nice and dandy in our crypto corner, but if you cannot make it work for the real economy and make it easier than the current tools, as much as we bash banks, online banking is still much easier than MetaMask wallet. So until that gets solved, you ain't gonna get any adoption. So what we're finally seeing is actual real people from the real economy starting to use these chains and actually making a difference.
Yeah,
like in healthcare
George
and
and I,
other
we get a lot of
places.
feedback on the show. We get a lot of people in our chat, DMs over on X and otherwise in our email because we put our emails out. And George, we've said this over and over again that the complexity, it's so difficult. You hear about different projects and you've got to go buy Solana to buy it or Ethereum to buy it. You got to have this wallet, that wallet. You've got to keep track of every one of the seed phrases. George, I know what your theory is on this, but I'm going to let you say it for yourself. You have a theory of what the big thing is.
When you have so much complications and you have people that are just trying to learn crypto, even older people, it's going to turn them off. So the easier you can make it where you have, and I always say one wallet that you could put all your crypto buy from different, wherever you want to buy from, instead of having to have this wallet to buy from this site, all that crap. It's just too much. It's too confusing.
You can access all the different ecosystems.
And it's time consuming. Right.
Yeah. One wallet rules them all. Isn't that maybe that's the catchphrase. But I think simplicity, if you had the Google of wallets, and I hate to say Google because I'm not always a fan of them, but at the end of the day, that's where I think the crossover, if somebody can get it, where the ease of use, the ease of understanding, because what's terrible now is with like the Bybit hack and Lazarus Group, that hack really does damage. When one hack like that occurs, people are like, oh my God, they can steal everything. I can't do this. That's the immediate knee-jerk reaction. And I think that's where real world application, and it's the explanation from experts like you, Nill, that can tell the audience, here's where it makes a difference in your life. People ask me, what should I buy? I said, well, start with a stable coin. They go, what do you mean? Start with something you can make some payments.
Suggestion ever. Thank God.
Yeah. Start with a stable coin. Don't try to go out and find generational wealth and try to find the next Godius Maximus or Peanut or some other, shill coin. I should start out with a stable coin, make some payments, pay for your Starbucks, try to find some places that will accept cryptocurrency, make a payment, get used to using the wallet. You don't have to have cold storage right away. Just don't put a lot of money in it. Keep it pretty bare bones. Learn that first and then maybe learn the difference between, a regular wallet and of course cold storage, and then maybe start to investigate. But I think education is the number one piece. Ripple made a big investment into the NCA, the National Crypto Association, $50 million. I don't know what they've done so far other than build a website. Hopefully they're going to do more. I'd love to have a relationship with them here on this show, but I think, that's what it's going to require. What do you, because I know we're running out of time, but Nill, real world, what do you think the most important thing is to move everybody forward, where maybe there'll be more than the 5%, because right now they say globally only 5% are dealing with digital assets. Maybe it's a little higher, maybe it's a little lower. Nobody really knows the exact number. What do you think? What's the number one thing that has to occur to move all these ecosystems forward?
Damn, that's such a like, and again, like I have a lot of I have a lot of like small points that would help this, but like the overarching effort for us is just make it that much more easy, and we hope that's what we're accomplishing with the ag layer, right? The goal for the ag layer is you transact on the blockchain just like the internet. It's that simple, right? And it comes with one wallet solution, George, and it comes from simplicity of bridging and swapping, right? It comes from making sure it's less frictionful. And so we're hoping that because we have so many unique things involved with it, it'll increase that. And then it comes back to like, what are the actual use cases? Where is it going to go? And I still see cross-border payments as the exponential growth of this ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
So many different countries using different currencies, using different exchange rates, using different value points, inflation, their currency swinging 40% in one day. Like we need just consistency. And I really think that that payment opportunity for cross-border is one of those like exponential growth avenues that we still haven't seen, but it's already accelerating. So watch for it.
Evgeny, what would you like to see to simplify the market? If you could just say one thing right now.
I think it's having a wallet that you don't need a 12-rate trace with connected to every public blockchain out there. And for all those people that are building on private blockchains, just throw that in the bin. We don't need private blockchains, if you ask me.
I got you.
We have
All right.
ZK rollups, stuff like that. If you want to keep things private on a private blockchain, you can do it.
All right, Nils, thank you so very much for joining us. Give them your social media real quick. Where can they find you? Get involved with your Telegram or otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. Big Nill Collect on all platforms. So if there's a social platform that exists, it's at Big Nill, Nill Collect.
Okay, now if you're not following Solana Global, do head over to the website. Evgeny, what were you going to say? Go ahead, buddy.
The Matic token went up 10% while we were talking in this.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly. All right, listen, don't forget to follow G. Ballantine, Lance Miliaccio, The Big Mig Show on X, and of course, Crypto Power Hour. Hit that follow button, that subscribe button. You'll find us on True Social, Getter, and of course, X. And of course, Solum Global. If you haven't gone over to take a look at the site and see what they're doing, solum.global. It's a great place. They power the show. We appreciate their support. Always come here. In crypto, we trust, baby. This place is going to grow. You want to get in on top of it. It's the place to get educated. Hit that follow and subscribe button. Be here every Wednesday and Friday at 3 p.m. We've also got a deal in the works, nationally syndicated radio show. We'll let you know as soon as that's going to be rocking and rolling because this will be another place to catch up on more episodes. Stay tuned. We're out of here. George, last words, my brother.
Y'all have a blessed weekend. Stay frosty, stay safe, stay healthy. Peace out.